autistic scholar named Eric William Brown.
So, let's really break this down. For like ever, the normal neurotypical brain has been the default, right? The invisible baseline that everything else gets compared to. If you're not that, you're a deviation. But what Eric William Brown is asking is, what if we completely flip that? What if we're the ones putting the Normate brain under the microscope for a change?
And this right here, this is the big question that drives this whole thing. It flips that standard clinical view on its head. It gets us asking, you know all that friction, that difficulty so many of us feel? What if it's not because there's something wrong with our brains, but because we're trying to interface with a totally different, very specific, and yeah, very analyzable operating system?
So, to actually do this, Brown gives us a new tool for our thinking toolkit.
Okay, and I gotta be super clear about this next part because it's absolutely crucial. Brown's concept of neurotypical disorder, or NTD, is not a real medical diagnosis. He's not trying to pathologize anyone. It's a tool, a heuristic. Think of it like a thought experiment. It's a way to make the normal way of thinking visible, something we can actually look at and study, its quirks, its biases, all of it.
So, where does this all start? According to Brown, it boils down to two totally different operating systems for dealing with uncertainty. For the neurotypical brain, he calls it the social allostatic pathway. Allostasis is just a fancy word for keeping things stable. So, when a neurotypical brain hits a moment of doubt, its go-to move is to check in with the group. What does everyone else think? That's how it finds its balance. Now, the autistic brain, that's what Brown calls the systemizing pathway. Instead of looking to the group, we tend to look at the system itself. We poke it, we test it, we try to figure out the underlying rules to find our answer. Two very different approaches.
All right, so let's dig into that first pathway, the social allostatic one. Brown gives it a pretty powerful name, the conformity engine.
And look, this isn't just some poetic idea. This is backed by hard science. Brain scans have shown that when a neurotypical person goes against the group consensus, their brain actually generates an error signal. And this signal literally slams the brakes on dopamine, you know, the feel-good reward chemical. So just think about that. For a neurotypical brain, disagreeing doesn't just feel awkward. It feels, on a deep chemical level, like you've done something wrong.
And this drive to conform, it has a real, measurable impact on their sense of personal agency. It's wild. In certain experiments, when neurotypical folks were just following orders, their brains showed a 67 millisecond delay in registering that they were the ones causing the action. Now, 67 milliseconds is nothing. It's less than the blink of an eye. But that tiny gap reveals this huge neurological shift that Brown calls the agency deficit.
But again, Brown is quick to point out this isn't some kind of moral failing. He sees it as a biological life hack, something he calls cognitive offloading. I mean, thinking is hard work. It burns a ton of calories. So to save that precious energy, the neurotypical brain has this clever trick. It just hands over its sense of agency to a boss or an authority figure. It's basically a biological shortcut to make getting along in a hierarchy way easier. And this really gets to the heart of why conformity is so critical for this operating system. For the neurotypical brain, getting rejected by the group isn't just like getting hurt. It is getting hurt. Brain scans literally light up in the exact same places as they do for physical pain. So for them, social survival and physical survival, they're basically the same thing.
Okay, so we've seen the internal wiring, but what happens when these two different operating systems try to talk to each other? Well, this is where you start to see real measurable problems.
Check this out. A study by Crompton and their team did something brilliant. They played that old telephone game with 3 different kinds of groups, and the results were just wow. When it was just autistic people in the chain, the message got through perfectly. Just neurotypical people, same thing, message got through fine. But the moment you mix the groups, autistic and neurotypical people together, that's when the information just fell apart. This tells us the problem isn't an autistic communication deficit. It's a breakdown that happens at the interface between us.
We're not talking about a little bit of miscommunication. The breakdown was massive. That number you see, -11.41, that's the scientific measurement for how fast the information just disintegrated in those mixed groups. Brown has a term for it, catastrophic information entropy. It's a total system meltdown, happening right at that point of contact.
And this isn't just about frustrating conversations or misunderstandings. According to Brown's analysis, this information breakdown has a cost, a real, tangible, physical cost. What Brown lays out is this just devastating feedback loop. So, here's how it goes.
Step 1, there's a basic communication mismatch between an autistic person and a neurotypical person. Step 2, for the neurotypical brain, this friction is metabolically expensive, so its energy-saving move is to pull back, to withdraw that social connection. Step 3, for the autistic person, that social rejection messes with our oxytocin system, the hormone that helps regulate things like pain. And the final step, the result is sensory hyperalgesia. Our sensitivity to physical pain actually increases. Think about that. Their social withdrawal literally, physically, makes us hurt more.
So, wow. If the system itself is what's causing the harm, what do we do? Well, Brown's answer is pretty clear. Stop trying to fix the people. It's time to start fixing the environment.
And this is really the core of his solution. Brown argues that the environment is the pathogen. Specifically, environments that demand two things from us. 1, synchronous performance. That means everyone has to be online, available, and responsive at the exact same time. And 2, polytropic performance. That's the constant pressure to multitask, to juggle a million things at once. He says those demands are the actual sickness we need to cure.
So he literally writes a prescription for the environment. For the sickness of synchronous surveillance, you know that little green active dot that's always watching you? The therapy is asynchronous systems that let you work when it's best for you. For the sickness of the rigid 9 to 5, the therapy is crip time, flexible scheduling that honors our own rhythms. And for the sickness of the chaotic, noisy open-plan office, the therapy is creating monotropic sanctuaries, places where we can actually control our senses and focus deeply. And let's be clear, these aren't nice-to-haves or special perks. Brown calls them what they are, necessary structural therapy.
Which brings us to the final big question. What if we actually did this? What if we stopped designing a world for just one type of brain and started building one for all of us? Our offices, our schools, our communities. What would a world designed for every kind of mind actually feel like to live in?